Hi, viewers, and welcome to Family Matters, your favorite program with Reverend Faith Dongo, your pastor and friend. I'm always excited to come talk about marriage because marriage works, but we also say that marriage is work. And, when you think about marriage, you go back all the way from the beginning where God saw that man could not live alone, and he decided to create a wife or a female so that the two could live together, fulfill God's purposes together. And that is why we keep talking about marriage. And this is going to be an exciting session and an exciting day for you because we have a wonderful guest together with us in the house. And before I introduce her, I just want to say I hope you're doing well. I hope your marriage is doing well, your family is doing well. This one is actually a program that we make it like a thermometer to check what are we doing, what is going on. And so please don't touch that dial, stay put, and you are going to be blessed. And so I want to introduce my guest today. And my guest is none other than Dr. Jane Wanjao, who is a marriage and family therapist. And have known Jane for many, many years. We had known each other from when we were girls, many, many years ago. And we are still going strong. We both believe in marriage very strongly, in family. And so, Dr. Jane, I want to say karibu sana,
Asante sana.
To Family Matters. And I know that you're going to be a blessing to our viewers. I want to give you an opportunity, first of all, to say hi to them and welcome them to the program.
Okay, thank you, viewers. I'm Dr. Jane Wanjao, marriages and family therapist, as you have just heard. And I'm very passionate about marriages. And I'm really happy to be here this morning. And all glory goes to God and also to you, Pastor Faith. And I'm sure you people are going to learn so much from us today. That is our prayer. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you so much. It is good to see you looking just as young as I knew you. I think it must be like 35 years ago.
Sure.
And I can see that God has kept you. God has just clothed you with His glory. Yeah. And so probably for starters, it would be good to know who is Jane Wanjao before you became Wanjao, before you became Dr. Jane. You can probably just give us a little bit of who is Jane that is sitting here today.
Thank you, yes. Pastor Faith. Yeah. So for me, I'm Dr. Jane Wanjao, and I'm a born-again Christian, and I fellowship at St. James Cathedral, Kiabu Town, and I am the CEO of Seed Counseling Center. And I really am very passionate about the marriages and the families, and that is why I'm here this morning. I'm also married to one man called Eliud Wajau Gige, and together we have 3 children, 29 years, 27 years, and 23, and to the glory of God.
Amen.
Thank you.
Oh, beautiful. So you are married. How long have you been married?
Yeah, thank you, Pastor Faith. I've been married for the last 30 years.
30 years?
Yes.
And so 30 years of being married to the same man.
Yes, absolutely.
That means something is working.
Yeah.
Wow, beautiful.
Yes.
And so before you became even Jane Wajao, before you became Dr. Jane, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, thank you very much. So I went to a primary school in Kirangare. That is a place near Wangige area. And that is where I finished I did my KCPA. Then I went to a high school in a school called Huruma Girls High School. Then I went for my A-level State House Girls. And from there, I joined the University of Kenyatta University. Yeah. And I did the Bachelor's of Education there. Yes.
So initially, actually, you were in education, not in counseling psychology.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I've been a teacher by training. Before now, I became a counselor.
So what led you to go to counseling psychology?
Okay, thank you very much, Pastor Faith. Very interestingly, my relatives would look at me and they would all come sit next to me. And even the older ones who they would say, let us go for counseling. And now I was asking myself, what is this? You know, I'm so young. Yeah. What is this that they are seeing in me? Yeah. So I think they had seen that quality in me, and that is why I believe it's a calling. Yeah. And whenever I talk to people, I see they are encouraged, they get hope, and of course, I'm a very joyful love your person.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that those are the reasons that led me there.
So it's actually just the calling of God, because sometimes somebody wonders, how do you decide to become something? And in this case, counseling, because counseling is really a caring profession. It is caring for people. Was there something that probably that you looked at in, beside people coming to you, that you looked out in the society or in your own life growing up that made you feel like, I want to give care to people?
Yeah, thank you. I realized that most of the families, even those days, there was a lot of traumas.
Yeah.
And these people, they did not understand what was happening to them. And then you hear somebody is even becoming depressed, but even the parents are not even aware of what is happening.
Yeah.
So there has been a lot of suffering for so long. Even before now, people thought about counseling. They didn't know about this, even the mental disorders. And that is also something that also made me go back to the university now to do the master's in counseling psychology. Yes.
So after training as a teacher, in your bachelor's, then you went back now to do counseling psychology.
Yes.
Wow, amazing. And so today, as we said, our topic is really why are marriages struggling? And we want to basically look at, the issues to do with our relationships. What are the challenges in the relationships? And as you rightly say, you've already just started mentioning, issues of mental health, issues of traumas that happen within families. Some people are not even aware of them. And then we start to see how it actually really affects marriage. So I'm excited that we are having this conversation. And probably before we even go to look at the challenges or why a marriage is struggling, maybe you can just mention to us, why should we even consider marriage? Why marriage? Because that is, I think, something that is keeping on coming up. Just recently, I saw, a lot of conversation on social media, and there were a lot of people that were just, trashing marriage and saying, forget about it. That's why for me, I will never get married. I want to remain single. And so why marriage in the first place?
Yeah, thank you so much, Pastor Faith. Marriage is a very important institution and even ordained by God himself. And he realized that Adam could not have done it alone. And that is why he gave him Eve, So right from the biblical times, we see that we were wired to actually be better when we are in a marriage setup. So I think from there, it's always important to even encourage the young ones who are thinking that there's no hope today, to know that there's marriage, that it is working, and without families, without marriages, we cannot have families. If we have no families, we cannot even have a nation. So what will happen if people are not getting married? It will be a huge problem.
But maybe somebody will argue there can still be family. I can get my baby. I've heard ladies say, I just want to get children. Nikipata mtoto, and they decide they will look for maybe a guy who is supposed to have a high IQ, maybe has money.
Yes, I hear you.
I get a child. I don't want all this other mess of living with somebody, taking care of somebody, And so to them, that's going to be family for me. I don't know what you would say about that.
Yeah, thank you very much, because you are pointing towards the issue of cohabitation, which is actually on the rise, And there are those people who will argue the way you are arguing. I don't want to get married. And why they don't want to get married, it's because they don't want to be committed in a relationship. They do not want also to accept responsibilities, So they would also want to have their children. However, they don't want any commitment. However, as a counselor and a psychologist, I know very well that a child requires both the parents,
That's right.
Yeah, so that they can grow well and have healthy emotional well-being. So the marriage is still very, very important, because we have also seen some single people also really struggling. They don't even know where to get mentors for their children from. The uncles can no longer be trusted, some of them. The neighbors cannot be trusted, so they are left asking themselves, who is going to become the role model to my children? So I think this marriage institution is very, very important. And we are also not saying that even if it's a marriage, we are also not saying it's good that it be a toxic one, because again, the same children can be harmed.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, I love what you're bringing out. On the one hand is that we need to realize children need to grow in in a relationship, in a family where they are both parents, as much as possible.
Yes.
Because we know, of course, there are things happen.
Yes.
People get divorced or separated. People die.
Yes, they do.
And so we are not saying that the single family, the single parent family is not a full family.
Yeah.
But we are saying that the well-being, for the well-being of any human being, growing up in a family where they know the father and the mother and they are there with them is a very important part of growing up.
Absolutely.
But on the other hand, of course, saying, again, we are not trying to rubber stamp people staying in a toxic relationship, in a marriage that is maybe violent and abusive and all that kind of a thing. But essentially what we are saying, if I listen, I'm hearing you well, is that children will grow up better to become better and stable people within a marriage relationship.
Yeah.
And actually, if you go back to Genesis, that is exactly what we see the model. Yeah. And so we know that marriage is not about our cultures. It's actually God ordained. Because God, brought Adam and Eve together and he told them to produce, to multiply, and, that means they were to get children. That is how God meant it to be. And they started getting children, and that is the model of God, that there should be a father, there should be a mother. In fact, when you continue reading the Bible, it is always talking about honor your father and mother. It is never just one.
Yeah.
So you realize these other things is because of whatever happens within our culture.
Sure.
And God bringing the Adam and Eve together and saying it is not good for him to be alone is because there is a God-given purpose for every human being, but it is better accomplished within a marriage because then you have a helper, somebody to complement you, somebody to push you forward, somebody to hold your hand when you are down, somebody to keep you warm when you're cold,
Oh, yes, absolutely, the companionship.
The beauty of marriage. So, wow, thank you so much for bringing that out, because I don't know, probably because of the issues, and that's what we will now delve into. It has made a lot of people, especially the young people, say, marriage doesn't work and I'm really not interested. And so looking at it then, why are marriages struggling so much? And have marriages always struggled, or is it something new in our day?
Thank you so much, Pastor Faith. I will still think there were still challenges even in the 60s and in the 50s, However, people are looking at life very differently. Because remember, those people who got married, like the wives, they had no option.
Yeah.
They were meant to stay there. And if you left a marriage like that one, you became an outcast. You could even be shamed in that society, And of course, the stigma around divorce and separation. So the people stuck in those relationships, whether they were working or not. And you know what, Pastor Faith? There's somebody who said that there are people, human beings are the only species, who die at 25 and are buried at 75. Wow. So probably it became too much for them, but then they had no options. They had to stay.
And they just stayed.
So we believe some of those challenges were still there. However, with the modern technology, women becoming more empowered through education, they have careers, they have their income. Today they feel they have better options and they don't have to die in any toxic environment. Yes, thank you.
Wow, you're actually starting to bring something that is very debatable about these women being empowered, because if you talk to men, they'll say marriages are not working because the women are empowered. So they are not listening to us. They no longer respect us. We will get to that.
Oh yes, we shall.
So would we rather not have the women empowered,
Yes.
Ndio wakae pale walikuwa wanakaa. But what you're saying is that every generation has had its challenges, and for sure people have stayed on in marriages that were not working. And our cultures would really shame you when you leave. I know even today that is there.
Yes.
But I think in some cultures it's really tough. Like I think a tribe or a culture, I think it must be in the Western Kenya, where if a woman separates or does not get married, when she dies, she's buried outside of the fence of their land. You are buried on the outside, meaning you are not supposed to be here. So you can imagine a woman who is in a marriage relationship, it is not working, things are really bad, but just thinking nikikufa nitazikwa kule nje kwa sababu I was not supposed to be here. You know, and of course we know even in like central Kenya where, you know, a single woman's children, you know, they will actually be sent away from the homestead just so that they don't inherit land. And so somebody would rather stay and get battered than get out there and you know, and then you have nothing. So I can of course really see why people would really stay. So why are marriages then struggling so much today?
Okay, thank you very much. And I want to say that it's quite unfortunate the way the society has also treated the women who found it very unbearable, you know, staying in those abusive environments. So now we are going to talk about the challenges that are facing the modern marriages. And I want to start with the one on childhood traumas. And this is a book that I have written about the childhood traumas, and it's entitled Unmasking the Wounds Within, the Ghost of Childhood Traumas. So as we are growing up, we remember we were brought up by the caregivers, and people are still being brought up by the caregivers, who are the parents or any other person who is in charge of the child. And many things have gone wrong in those childhood times, you know. And when we talk about the childhood traumas, we are not talking about earthquakes and tsunamis, Pastor Faith. You know, some people will think it's about tsunamis and the floods and all that.
Or an accident.
Or an accident. However, we are going to talk about the traumas that we know have also really affected people in their adult life. And if they are not able to resolve those issues, they carry them to their adult life. They also take it to their marriages. And of course, the marriage will not stand. So what are some of these childhood traumas that we are talking about? One of them is physical abandonment. We also have the emotional abandonment. We do also have the sexual abuse, you know. We do also have the criticism that occurred in a marriage, in a family, that one parent was probably or even both criticizing a child all the time. And we also know there has been the negative comparisons of siblings and even with their peers and even with other relatives. And also there's something else that is very serious called parentification, Pastor Faith. And this parentification can occur at two levels. And before we talk about the two levels, what is this parentification? That we find when in the home there's anxiety and stress, one parent or even both have this habit of sharing the problems with the child. And this is already very heavy stuff that you are disclosing to a child. Your father is having another woman there, even your mother was having sex out there. So this is very heavy stuff that you are telling children who are not even developmentally ready to receive such stuff. So that is why we are calling it parentification. So it occurs at two levels. The emotional parentification, that is when now I'm confiding in the child about very difficult stuff. Then we also have now what we call the instrument of parentification. Especially the firstborns, they have really seen hell because they were entrusted with all the other children. They were to care about the other children. They were even to mind them, feed them, wash their clothes, and even when they went wrong, they were even blamed for the mistakes of their children. So that parentification is real trauma as people grew up, you know. And some people don't understand the effects of these things we are talking about. Because when we talk about that parentification, we hear a role reversal has already occurred. Because in a family, the mother or the father is supposed to meet the emotional needs of the child. However, a role reversal is occurring, that this child is meeting the emotional needs of either the father or the mother, or even both. So what happens to this child? What happens to this child? They learn to really not care about their own needs. Their own needs take a backseat. So they don't think they matter. So when they come to my office, I will realize that their self-love levels are very low. So they have self-love deficit disorder. And remember, we say that you can only be loved, Pastor Faith, to the degree you love yourself. So you must teach other people how to love and treat you and even respect you. You know, and this other partner that you have, we only love you to the degree that they love themselves. So, yes,
Dr. Jane, because it's quite a mouthful.
Sure, yes.
Very deep stuff that you're bringing out, and you can see I'm already getting mesmerized. I'm sure our viewers are getting mesmerized at the things that happen. And I want us to kind of go through them step by step so that we can actually start to see why then the marriage now? Because
Yes.
here we are talking about marriage as struggling, and
Yes.
you are bringing out some of the things that happened.
Yes.
And so on this one of parentification, that's what you're calling it.
Yes.
I want us to go step by step on
Yes.
that a little bit,
Yeah.
so that and then we can go back to all the others that you mentioned, because I'm
Lovely.
listening to them and I can
Lovely.
relate.
Yes.
You know?
Lovely. Yes.
I can already relate at responsibilities that were
Yes.
being given to, you know,
Yes.
to children, being shamed
Yes.
for maybe how you look. It could
Sure.
be you are too thin. It
Yeah.
could be you are, and you know, I think our cultures,
Yes.
I don't know whether other tribes are like that, but the Kikuyus, they will just tell you, an auntie or a grandmother will tell you exactly.
Yes.
You are like a karukuma,
Yeah.
because, you know, karukuma is like a kalog, eh?
Aha.
Because you are fat.
Yes.
You are like, when ni birodo.
Yes.
Sijui kama kwenu kulikuwa hivyo.
Ha.
Birodo is,
Yes.
you are very dark.
Yes, I hear you. I hear you.
You are
Yes.
this, you are that.
Yes.
Sometimes even it is regarding the person you're named after.
Yes.
You're named after a particular person, and you are even insulted. Not that they even mean bad, but
Yeah.
it is just things they'll tell you, but they don't realize they get internalized. But let's go over this,
Yes.
the parentification.
Yes,
so
please.
that's for today,
Yes.
we deal with that.
Yes.
And then see how does it then come and affect our marriages.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I want you to break it down a little
Yes.
bit.
Okay. So we go back to the emotional parentification.
Yes,
You are
yes.
confiding in a child. The child is not yet ready even to handle that stuff.
Yeah.
So this child will now start meeting the needs of that parent. So they forget themselves.
So we are talking about a marriage here
Yes.
that is already having its own issues.
Yes.
Maybe a husband. We
Yes.
grew up in homes that sometimes were polygamous.
Sure.
And I'm sure this mother, whose husband has another wife or two, there are things they tell their children.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
You know, your father never cares for us.
Oh, yes.
Your father is always in the other house. Your father is this, or your mother is like this, like that. So you are saying that actually, instead of the children coming to the parents to tell them their troubles, the parents are the ones who are telling them their troubles and making them carry emotional burden.
Oh, yes.
Amazing.
It's quite unfortunate, Pastor Faith, because the child will never know their needs matter. It's about the other people first.
Yeah.
So them, they are taking a backseat. Self-love levels will go low.
Yeah.
That is a fact. And of course, when you tell them about the other father, the other parent, and about other women, you are planting now in them the seeds of rejection. Yeah.
Already.
Yeah. So already, even as they are moving into this adult world, they are getting into now relationships. They will have the fear of being rejected. They will have the fear of being abandoned in that relationship.
Yeah.
So they will enter there. One leg will be inside, the other one will be out. Because they are telling themselves, it's a matter of time before I'm rejected, before I'm abandoned.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So emotional. Here, this is at the emotional level.
Yes.
And so this person comes to marriage. They don't know that. So because you're saying that's a trauma.
Yes, it is.
That's a trauma. And I love that you have actually written a book. And I would really want to ask our viewers that this is a book you want to get hold of. Because, you know, many of us have traumas that we are not even aware about, that we suffered in our childhood. And then we get into marriage and we are having issues. We can't receive love.
Yes.
We can't really give love.
Sure.
Because we really didn't know how to even internalize our own emotions, you know, even acknowledge them.
Absolutely.
Because you had to put them on the side as you were, you know, worried about your mother.
Sure.
You know, wanting to protect your mother always. And you're talking about that, and I'm thinking about some of the children that I've heard people say the way they had to stand up to their father.
Yes.
Because he would always beat the mother. And one day, and this boy who is, you know, 10 years old, stood up and said, "You will not beat my mother anymore."
It happens.
You can imagine that kind of somebody now when they have grown up and they want to get into a relationship. And they are always up in arms,
Yes.
wanting to defend themselves.
Sure. In fact, what you are saying is very, very profound.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they are leaving that home with that bitterness, anger, and resentment, and they do not go for counseling, some may not even be aware the magnitude or the levels of the harm. So they are getting into a relationship knowing they have a huge grudge with the one who abused the other parent, but they have not resolved it.
Yeah.
So because of that anger, bitterness, and resentment, their relationship, their marriage can even be worse, and a disaster can be in the waiting.
And so it actually becomes a cycle then.
Yeah, it
Because
is.
they pass it on to the next generation.
Absolutely. In fact, we talk about it as being intergenerational pattern of pain.
My goodness, my goodness. You know, our time is really gone. We
Yes.
need to end it here, but of course we will continue with this conversation.
Yes.
Because I am thinking this is so deep that if we really can get to the bottom of it and start to say, okay, so what do we do with these issues? Yes, we suffered emotional trauma.
Yes.
And we were not even aware. And maybe somebody is listening and thinking, that sounds like me.
Yeah.
Or some are actually in denial. They're almost like, no, there's nothing like that. But then you're struggling with your relationship. You don't even know how to love your wife or your husband. You can't even receive love. We are so guarded. You know, we are always looking for ways where we've been rejected. And we don't even realize why are we dealing with rejection. And you know, I'm thinking this person, it's not even just about marriage. It's even generally in life.
Oh, yes.
At the place of work.
Absolutely.
You know, among friends, they're always looking for ways where I'll get hurt. And then they put a wall and protect themselves.
Absolutely. The wall is there. You know, you have been hurt. You don't want to be hurt anymore.
Yeah.
So the people you'll be saying, so and so is my friend, but we have superficial relationship. Because they can't even understand the person.
Yeah.
The person cannot be vulnerable. Because again, there was a lot of distrust that was planted in them.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
A parting shot.
Yes.
To the audience. Just looking at the camera and just a parting shot.
Yes.
If somebody has gone through that, what would you tell them? Even as they wait to hear the next session.
Okay, thank you very much. What I would tell my viewers today, that there is hope.
Amen.
That even if you went through those traumatic experiences, today you can make a choice whether you want to be defined by that past or whether you want to grow from that toxic experience that you went through.
Yeah.
So the person really has to go and work with the counselor so that the counselor can unearth all the emotional abuse. And from there, the person can start on the healing journey. And this will include the person in now reparenting themselves.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Thank
to
you.
be continued. My viewers, with that we need to actually be aware. That's what I'm hearing you say. That first and foremost is the awareness, the self-awareness.
Yeah.
That, hey, I'm looking, as I'm listening to this topic, I am looking at my life and I can see where I could have been wounded. And that's why my relationships are not really working. And I need to go back and actually retrace my steps.
Yes.
And then start the journey of healing. There is hope. That's what our guest is telling us today. There is hope for you. And in Jesus Christ, of course, there is hope because Jesus heals the brokenhearted. Jesus restores. Jesus removes the shame in us, the ashes. He gives us beauty. And I pray that through this conversation, that is what you're going to experience. May the Lord bless you. Thank you so much for being here. Watch out for part 2. Thank you.